With Star Wars Anniversary Patch version 3.2 right around the corner, this is my recommended investment guide to best improve your account. Let's start with the Phase 1 banners. We have Castorice, Jiaoqiu, Fugue, and finally Acheron. Castorice, as already mentioned in previous videos, I believe to be the best DPS in the game if you play her well and is the highest value pool among the first half characters in my opinion. She is really strong in Memory of Chaos and Apocalyptic Shadow, but is slightly slower in Pure Fiction as of right now. The recent bosses are all weak to Quantum as well, Bodox, Flame Reaver and Nikados, not to mention older Quantum enemies, and hence I think her value to last for quite a long time. The only issue is that Castorice doesn't really have very good free-to-play Litecoin options. It's at least better than some other units that we have, but if you are a low spender, the Battle Pass Litecoin is a very good alternative option for her. Castorice being the highest value pool in this phase is also due to the fact that the recent Memory of Chaos buffs are tailor-made to the newer DPS units. Honestly, it's kind of becoming a problem because older units who should technically be pretty good against certain enemies don't feel as rewarding to play. Memory of Chaos is kind of becoming a glorified character trial at this point, but that does also increase her value over, for example, Acheron. Speaking of Acheron, she has unfortunately not aged super well if you didn't invest past E0 as 0. I think this is a lesson to learn from, that you should at least try to complete the team before moving on. By herself, it's pretty hard to justify pulling Acheron right now, especially since you would ideally want to get Jiaoqiu at the same time, which is 2 5 stars that you have to pull for. And to be in a better spot, you would probably want to get S1 as well, because the gap between her S1 and Goodnight Sleepwell can be pretty big. Otherwise, if you already have her and want to keep using her, I would recommend getting Jiaoqiu first and then her S1. If you don't have Acheron, it's going to be better to skip her altogether and get Castorice instead. Jiaoqiu is quite an underrated support, mostly because he doesn't offer that much more over Pella in teams that don't care for faster debuff application. He does do more damage than Pella because his DOT can add up over a fight. Unfortunately, that is still not enough to warrant the 70 or 140 pulls just to get him, and is only really justifiable if you already have Acheron. Don't get me wrong, this does not mean that Jiaoqiu is bad for other teams. He can be used pretty well in quite a lot of them, Argenti, Yunui, Dr. Ratio, Facial, and technically even Castorice teams. I simply think it's only a justifiable pull if you already have Acheron. Finally, we have Fugue. There was a lot of discussion previously between Fugue and Harmony MC, and also about pulling her so you can free up Remembrance Trailblazer in other teams. As of 3.2, I do think that pulling Fugue to free up RMC is a decent option, but only if you are still using break teams. She contributes quite a lot to break teams, especially if you are able to clear the waves fairly quickly, and is actually incredibly strong when paired together with Harmony MC and Ruan Mei. If you have pulled the newer 3.0 units like Eglea, the Herta, and Mide, there is a good chance you don't have to use a break team at all when clearing endgame content, and obviously pulling Fugue then would be more of a waste. Although Fugue is a fantastic unit and can really help if you are brute forcing stages like I've done multiple times myself, she is most likely one of the lower priority units in this version. In the second half, we have Anaxa and Dr. Ratio. Dr. Ratio is unfortunately the lowest value pool in version 3.2, being a DPS unit in sort of the same category as Facial, who is pretty much a better version of him. He is a decent damage carry regardless, but seeing as we have Castorice, Acheron, and Anaxa in this version, it is very hard to justify pulling or even using Dr. Ratio in recent endgame content. Anaxa is quite an interesting secondary DPS. It seems Hoyoverse has crafted his kit with the Herta in mind, and is a massive upgrade over Servo. Not only is he able to efficiently deal with lower target scenarios, he simply does much more damage than her, is technically a better ego user, while even providing pretty good buffs based on the number of erudition units on the team, just like the Herta. I believe Anaxa and the Herta to be a very potent combo and should be the go-to pull if you are not looking to Castorice or you want to further improve the Herta teams in Memory of Chaos and Apocalyptic Shadow. It does seem that he has enough damage to even be played as a hypercarry at times, but I think the best value pull would be if you already have the Herta or you are planning to get her in the future. From there, you can choose to play him as a hypercarry when appropriate, or as a secondary DPS on the team with the Herta. Hence, for the overall pulling priority, I have Anaxa and Castorice as the highest priority, followed by Acheron, Jiaoqiu, and Fugue in scenarios where they would be useful, and lastly, I don't think you should be pulling for Dr. Ratio in any scenario. If you don't require Jiaoqiu for Acheron or Fugue for break teams, nor are you interested in Castorice or Anaxa, I think you should then be saving for future patches. However, your pulling priority can change slightly if you have higher vertical investment, or if you are planning to vertically invest. For Litecoins, the highest priorities should be Acheron S1 if you already have Jiaoqiu, and Castorice S1 if you are unable to buy the Battle Pass. For Eidolons, there are some that will change your pulling priority simply because of how strong they can be. for example Acheron and Castorice E2. Hence, if you have Acheron E1 for some reason, it might be worth considering Acheron E2 over a new DPS unit. Most other Eidolons aren't really worth mentioning other than Fugue E1, but you obviously have to get Acheron and Castorice E1 before you can get their game-changing E2. I do think Castorice E2 technically has higher value, as the reason why Acheron's E2 is so strong is because you are able to play a Harmony unit that may or may not require you to pull a different unit. Finally, we have the new shop that gives either a free Ruan Mei or Luocha. As of 3.2, it would obviously be Ruan Mei if you don't have her yet, followed by her E1, and then I would advise you to save it rather than using it on Luocha. In fact, I think using it on Ruan Mei's E1 right now is also a bit debatable. These characters actually seem to be permanently added to the shop, and future characters that will be added will not take over Ruan Mei or Luocha's spot. However, it might take a while before we get new characters added to this. Hence, I think the wisest decision if you already have Ruan Mei and also have the patience would actually be to wait to see what other characters that they will be adding before using it on her E1. Because if they add a unit like Robin, she will definitely be the best possible use of the store currency. For future potential investments, I've said a million times at this point, but I do think this new 180 speed healer has the potential to be an upgrade to Castorice and maybe even melee teams. And I would at least save some pulls for that if you want to upgrade those teams. That's it for my 3.2 investment guide. Happy pulling, happy anniversary, thanks for watching, and see you.